News since 5. In a disaster, we rely on the men and women who respond to dangerous situations on a daily basis. In certain cases, teamwork between nearby departments and agencies can save lives and even prevent further damage.
Well, WGEM's Joseph Lawler spoke with some local firefighters. So, Joseph, what makes these partnerships so important?
Daniel and Raja, small towns in Missouri are no stranger to fire departments relying on volunteers, many of which may not have all the equipment or even manpower needed for the most extreme situations. That's why local departments truly rely on each other to keep themselves and residents safe. 18 volunteers are trained and ready at Palmyra's volunteer fire department, but during the workday, it could be a different story.
Our average now is about 5 firefighters, which is really not enough. It'd be great to have a full staff here, 20 guys ready to roll out the door at any given time.
Palmyra Fire Chief Gary Crane is currently retired, but volunteers his time for the Palmyra Fire Protection District. He says knowing who can be where and when is vital in situations where they may need to dispatch neighboring departments.
So I can look at it real quick and see how many firemen we have coming to this incident, whether or not we need to go ahead and immediately call more mutual aid.
Crane says when life-threatening situations arise, collaboration with other nearby departments is not only preferred, but in some cases necessary.
So if we get in a situation where you have a taller structure or a grain bin rescue, we need a ladder. So we have mutual aid with the city of Hannibal.
Mark Kempker, the public education coordinator for the Hannibal Fire Department, says the mutual aid agreement is just that, a two-way street for manpower and resources.
From time to time, we have to get some additional resources as far as folks to help us when we have these large multi-acre grass fires. We take advantage of knowing what skills and equipment our other supporting agencies have.
Both Crane and Kempker say it all boils down to communication and planning. Kempker shared that most, if not all, local agencies get together to develop disaster response plans to better prepare for situations where collaboration is needed. Raja?
All right, thank you, Joseph. And Crane also says they currently have 2 vacancies for volunteer firefighters. He says they're taking applications and hope to begin interviews on the 1st of March.